Coach King, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and jumping on here and just, discussing some ideas and sharing some of what you do. For the listeners at home, will you tell us a little bit about your background, your motivation, and kind of where you are currently?
So currently the director of football strength and conditioning at University of Connecticut, and I have a background in the fact that obviously I fell in love with training at an early age in life, and it's one of those things that I've always been around sports my whole life, from playing football, playing basketball, running track in high school, and I was always fascinated with the body and how the body can adapt to training and different types of training styles, and train for different sports and whatnot. But I played football at the University of Maine. Was there from 2002 to 2006, and that's pretty much where my love for strength and conditioning in the process, understanding how to program, fell in love with that. I was always in my strength coach's ear, trying to ask him why we do certain things. I was always trying to figure out the why, and then from there. I spent time with some professional teams in the NFL, the CFL, and the arena leagues. And then, in between those times that I was playing, I was always training. So I met Lauren Seagrave during that time, who at the time the director of Velocity Sports Performance. And, I was always in his ear about things. And he was very instrumental in me first. I started out the private side. I started out working at a Velocity in Foxborough, Mass, which is not too far from home for me. And then, from there, it was I think I want to get into the college side of things. And then obviously went to University of Maine as an assistant, got my master's while I was there as well. Was only assistant for 6 months, and then ended up becoming the director of strength and conditioning after 6 months. So my career has been crazy. And I was at Columbia for a year, and I've been at Washington for 3 years before I got here. So it's been a whirlwind past 10 years of doing this stuff. So
no, I mean that's crazy to hear, because you kind of see a lot of in older strength and conditioning coaches, a lot of them made jumps from assistant to director, just like that, right? In today's kind of profession, it's a lot harder to do. So what have you been able to kind of learn from making some of those jumps and switching over from private sector to college side?
The biggest thing for me was on the private side, there's a lot more selling involved in terms of selling your style of training and selling. You're basically selling because you don't know whether you're going to have an athlete for a day, a week, a month. That's your monthly income is affected by how many clients you have. And that was one of the things that that drove me kind of to move more towards the college side of things, because it was so driven on sales, and I spent more time, I felt like, selling than I did actually programming and trying to help people get better as athletes. So.
Okay. What are some of the most important things that you've learned in that quick journey, and who are some of the most influential people that you've learned from in those past positions?
So basically, obviously, Lawrence Seagrave is one of the guys that he helped me out get started in this business. But from him to my college strength coach, Will Bieberstein, who's no longer in strength conditioning, he's on the administration side of things at UMaine. And then in high school, obviously, I trained at Mike Boyle's in Mass, and a lot of the things that I learned back then in high school, it carried over to what we were doing in college. And then obviously when I got to the University of Maine, Dan Nickel, he's the head of strength conditioning at Minnesota now. He was very instrumental in just in terms of helping me understand the college side of things and how organizational and being attention to detail and how to be organized and whatnot. And then finally, Tim Saha, the guy who I just worked with at University of Washington, I have a lot of respect for Coach Saha and the things that he's done in his career, and he's been, honestly, I've learned the most from him on how to run an effective college strength and conditioning program.
It's a lot of big names there, a lot of influential people, so that's really important. Okay, how has working with multiple sports kind of throughout your past and throughout your upbringing, how has that kind of benefited you now?
So basically, being a multi-sport athlete, the one thing I don't like is when people are like, oh, he's a football guy or he's a basketball guy. I don't like when people label you as, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I'm a coach, and I like to work with athletes in all sports, and it's one of those things where I think it's more so just understanding, the different personalities and building relationships because you're going to have different personalities with different teams. I mean, obviously, they have different training styles, different energy systems that they're working with. So you have to be respectful of that, and then you have to be respectful of the culture. Every team has a different culture, regardless of what sport it is as well. Because I've seen basketball teams that had a so-called football culture, or football teams that didn't have a football culture. You know, so it's you're more so it's more about being able to deal with different types of people and different personalities and different coaching staffs as well.
Okay.
So
I think that's really important. Like you said, a lot of people label either themselves or others as this is the only thing they work with, which really pigeonholes us as individuals and as a profession, right? Because now as a profession, people are specializing early. We're having less discussion. People are not as skilled overall, right? And we're supposed to be masters of generalism, and working with this. But now we're, specifics, just like with early sports specialization, right? It's the same kind of thought process, is we have to get into it early and stick with it. So I think that's a really important concept that you kind of touched on there.
No doubt. And even now, being a director of football strength and conditioning, there are still other teams, like some of the Olympic sport teams still come and train in our weight room here at UConn, and I love that fact. At Washington, we didn't have that. It was, it was football only. Yeah. And we always just say, like, dang, we all started out working with multiple sports, and then you become so specialized, and it's like, it actually makes you a better coach when you're working with multiple different teams and different athletes. And when the different teams come in here now, I always have a tendency to want to go out and help out the other athletes, and obviously it'll help me. I can always learn something as well from the other coaches on their staff. We have a great staff at the University of Connecticut, and on our Olympic side and on our football side. So, and the nice thing about it is everybody's open to bouncing different ideas off each other as well. So, it's an open learning environment.
That's huge, right? And even people on the Olympic side, they don't necessarily. Some of them don't like to ask, say, football strength coaches, quote unquote football strength coaches, because they're intimidated, or they just think they only know football, right? So to have that kind of culture where you can share, it makes the whole department as strength and conditioning, whole university better. The athletes feel more comfortable, the employees feel more comfortable. It's a better environment. So I like that. So
because my thing is, if one team wins, we all win.
Exactly.
It's like we all eat off each other pretty much at the end of the day. So
you're one university, right? So. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's dive into training a little bit more, right? So if we're talking about the football athlete, right, what does the kind of a general macrocycle look like for a team like that?
So basically, we break it down into in season and obviously the off season, postseason, off season, preseason.
Okay.
And right now technically we're going to be going into our preseason phase when these guys get back June 3rd.
Okay.
And it'll be more of a power-based program, so we'll use a lot of tendos and velocity-based training.
Okay.
The thing is, the training phase that we just finished before these guys went on break in May was a big strength phase for us. The nice thing about our schedule is we push spring ball up earlier. So we started in February. We actually started February the week after signing day.
Oh wow!
Okay. Spring ball schedule. So we was able to bang out spring ball and got that done. Right before the guys went on spring break. So when they came back from spring break, it was 6 weeks of straight training. And it was all strength and speed based. Guys, we trained speed 4 days a week. We hit 2 linear days and 2 change of direction days, and guys got that was a big emphasis on us. It was the coaches were like, coach, you're not doing a lot of conditioning. It was something different than what they had seen previous. And my thing was I didn't want to do conditioning at the expense of losing speed. And the big thing is, coach said, I want these guys to be faster. I want them to be stronger. So that's what we're focused on this spring. And then, guys, we implemented what we call it. It was one thing we did at Washington. It was great. We called it the Husky Combine. Here I called it the Husky Showcase. So basically, it's a combine style training, combine style testing event that we did at the end of our training cycle in April, and guys loved it because my thing is, like, at the end of the day, these guys are all going to have the ability or going to want to train for their pro day, and when they get done, and like I want them to be comfortable with those tests that you perform at your pro day. So the more you can practice it, obviously practice makes perfect. So the more you practice those tests over your 3, 4, 5 years here, and do on a stage in front of people, then you're going to be more comfortable when you go and perform at your pro day, or you get an invite to the NFL Combine. So, after that phase is done, like I said, this summer we're going into more of a velocity-based training approach. And obviously, guys, that have been in the program for a while that have reached a certain strength base.
Yeah.
My thing is I'm not a big numbers chaser. It's more so, specific to the athlete and the position that the athlete plays. So like I don't. It's not really that important for me to a guy to attain a 400-pound bench press if he's already benching 2 times his body weight. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's more so based on the athlete and based on the needs of that athlete and where they are in the program. For my guys that are 4th and 5th year, third, 4th year guys, they're really going to be on a true velocity-based training program this summer. And it's more so, how fast they can move the weight and how efficiently they can move it as well. We'll do game simulators for our conditioning in the summertime. We'll go. We won't train speed as much. It'll be 2 speed days and 2 change of direction days. I mean, 2 conditioning days. One speed day will be a linear day, and then we'll have a conditioning day, and then the next speed day will be a change of direction day, and then we'll finish with a conditioning day, usually on a Friday. I like to do Friday finishers in the summertime as well. And then once we get going during camp, those guys will lift pretty much every day. They'll have a single practice day. They'll lift in the opposite of the practice time. And I hate to use the word maintain because we're still trying to make gains during the season, our guys. I used to say, maintain, because when I was an athlete, that was one of the words that, my strength coach used. He's like, we just got to maintain in the season. But, I felt you could almost feel yourself getting weaker in season. And I one of those things is I want to make sure that guys are still making strength gains. So we'll still lift heavy in season. We'll still hit high percentages in the season. Obviously, the volume is a lot lower. We'll still hit. Our intensity still stays high throughout the season as well. I want guys to still be able to keep their strength, and obviously the teams that are strongest in November and December are the ones that are gonna win. And win big. So
no, I think that's really important, right? And another important point that you touched on was that right after spring ball, you're talking about the speed development, right? And how coaches are kind of afraid because it's something they haven't seen. But I think that's important because, again, the speed reserve is going to pull up all other qualities, right? So if we don't have a high level of speed, everyone's like, we want to get faster, but all we're doing is running gassers and full field sprints, stuff like that. But it's like, all right, well, what are we really actually trying to get? And so it's tough kind of talking to coaches like that. And so I think that's really important of how you've attacked it and how you've dialed in. And so kind of with that, as far as speed, right? So obviously in season we're not doing a ton of conditioning and things like that. So is the speed more addressed in terms of like with the velocity based training? So we're hitting that quality.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So it's speed. With our in season training, I'll use velocity based training. I'll use time to use it in season as well because obviously I want to make sure these guys that they're still able to be reach their numbers in terms of peak power that I want to see. Obviously. We have certain numbers that we want to attain on a weekly basis based on the percentages that we're working at, and that's the way that pretty much we train speed each season. It's not so much of on field stuff; it's more in the weight room. So.
Okay, I really like that. And then with your speed training, say in that kind of springtime, what does that look like? Is there a lot of like contrast sprints or things like that? Or
my thing is keep it simple. And honestly, I feel like sometimes a lot of coaches, and myself included, sometimes have a tendency to want to get sexy with exercising. Do a little too much too fast. And that's one thing I learned from Coach Saha. It's like, the basics will always, the basics that you, like with speed, from posture to arm action to leg action, making sure that guys are obviously in the right positions. It's all about shin angles and basic physics. I mean, I feel like a lot of times people make it harder than what it really is when it comes to speed training. But we train the basics over and over and over again, and we get good at the basics, and then eventually we'll get to I just got here 4 months ago, and literally we hammered the basics for the last 4 months. And maybe next year I can get to some more exotic exercise with these guys on the field, but it's just it's basic speed training, basic linear and lateral mechanics.
No, I think that's another important thing, right? Everybody does want to use the parachute, put some weight on some people, which are good tools, but like you said, if you get the basics down, it's going to cover a lot of stuff. So I really like that. Okay, and so obviously you're working with athletes that are on the turf a lot, right? Is there any different approach as far as like foot care, or is there anything that we can do or that you think that we can do to negate some of that?
So this spring, you know, we implemented a barefoot training during our warm up. So like the nice thing about the way our facility is set up is we have our indoor facility right next to our weight room. And our indoor is a full 120-yard indoor, and it's well maintained. The turf, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, this turf is brand new. I think it's about a year old. So knowing that the turf is well maintained, it's still got a little bounce to it. I was like, this would be perfect for us to do some barefoot work during our active dynamic warm up every day. So pretty much every day during our warm up and then during our prehab work when we're using bands and whatnot, we'll go barefoot. And you know, guys, it's one of those things where obviously the way I sell it, you know, I was telling Coach, why are we always barefoot? Why are we always barefoot? I said, you got to spend your whole life in shoes. You know, you spend your whole life in shoes or sandals and whatnot. And I was like, those muscles in your feet, they get weak over time. And you know, the more think about it, back in the prehistoric days, they didn't walk around. They walked around barefoot. They didn't have foot issues. You know? So it's one of those things where it's a cheap way for us to be able to build foot strength and build ankle mobility without and being able to do it on a large scale in a short amount of time. So
I think that's another interesting thing is because there's so many injuries or limitations that are driven from foot dysfunction that people don't think about. So if you're not attacking that right, then you're not necessarily a full body program, right?
Exactly. It starts from the ground up, and it's like if the foot is dysfunctional, then the knee's going to be dysfunctional. Then the hip's going to be dysfunctional. So it starts from the ground up, and also it helps reinforce proper mechanics. Going back to that speed stuff, when we're doing some of our barefoot training during our speed stuff, you know, the guys, you can, when I tell them to dorsiflex, you can see the toe dorsiflex. You know, so it's not when you got a shoe on, sometimes you can't actually see that. So when we're certain drills and I tell them I want a dorsiflex foot, I want their toe cocked, then you can actually see it and they can feel it, and it's a win-win for both of us.
I like that. Okay. And so obviously we don't want injuries to happen, right? But it's inevitable in sport, right? It's a chaotic environment, and you know, sport wouldn't be sport without the risk of injury necessarily. So how do we kind of handle some of these injuries if they occur, or if athletes kind of have a pre-existing injury that they come in with?
So basically, like what we do here is we utilize the functional movement screen. We actually utilize the scores from the functional movement screen to develop a corrective exercise protocol based on. It's one of those things that we started when I was at Maine working with Dan Nickel, but you know, at Washington we did it as well, and like. It's worked out well. I would say, like, you don't want to spend the whole entire time. You don't want to spend a lot of time on corrective, so to say, because you can get caught up in a lot of stuff. Like, there's so many things that you can get caught up in. So, when I was at Maine, we had what we called a hamstring group, and we gave everybody names. So we had the hamstring group was hamstring hut. Our ankle group was ankle shop. You know, our guys with back issues were back school issues. And basically, like, you know, based off their movement screen scores, we utilize some corrective exercises for each one of those guys, and we put it on their cards, and our coaches would bring guys through. Guys, it'd be like, King, you take the ankle guys, and whatever, you take the hip mobility guys, whatnot. So but we don't spend a great amount of time on it. Yes, we utilize it. It is one of the tools that we use, but we don't spend a great deal on it. And also, I think our big thing is hip mobility work. Because let's face it, our kids sit in class all day long. So their hip flex, they get tight, and we do a lot of work on our Wednesdays, technically our off days. Guys will come in and they'll hit our hip mobility circuits as well. So I'm big on that as well. So
one thing that you said that's really I find interesting is you don't spend a lot of time on it, right? So people will get down the rabbit hole on this, right? So you have FMS, and while I love FMS and I love all the correctives, right? You have the Y balance, then you have like the functional capacity screen. You could honestly spend hours just doing assessments, right? But then at the end of the day, it's like, what training did we actually do? And it's like, well, we got a bunch of numbers that we're never going to come back to, or we won't ever have time to retest again. So again, keeping it simple, right? We found what we need to do, get a good view of the athlete and get some things that we need to correct. And now we're just going to work on it and just sprinkle it in, So I really like that. Yeah, that's awesome. And then kind of diving into a little bit more of like the leadership portion, right? So how has been being a director at multiple locations kind of set you up for success at UConn?
So basically, what I've learned is, the way you treat people is huge, and like I try to treat people the way I'd want to be treated if I was working under someone as well. So that's huge in this business, and just making sure that your staff understands like having a work-life balance. Like I want my guys to understand, like, you're a strength coach, but like make sure you have a life outside of work. I know you can get caught up in just basically like can get caught up, like sometimes I get caught up like reading at work or something like that. And it's like, Coach Saha at Washington always be like, yo, go read outside. Man. Like, you don't need to sit at your desk all the time. Just making sure that like, you have you're not just always sitting in the office and that you have a life outside of work. So but in terms of leadership, it's just like a leader, if you show that you care, I feel like people will run through walls for you. It goes the same thing with your athletes. Like if you show your athletes that you care, they'll run through walls for you. If you show your staff that you care and you'll fight for them, and then they'll do whatever you want them to do, pretty much. So being a good leader is obviously being humble and being able to take coaching. It's just one of those things where I'm consistently trying to learn things. I know I don't know everything. I want to surround myself around people that are smarter than me because they'll make me a better coach. So that's one of the things I would say like constitutes a great leader. So
I really like that. Okay, and then diving into some more continuing education type stuff, right? How does your continuing education program kind of look like for yourself and also for your staff, and how does that kind of differ from like, say, a volunteer or intern all the way up to like an assistant?
So basically, we'll sit down and we'll have weekly staff meetings, and we'll discuss what we liked from the week, what we didn't like from the week, and then also we'll discuss some things that maybe someone has done at another school or another place that they may have worked at. Because obviously there's a million and one ways to do this thing the right way, and everybody has different variations of what they do. And, for our staff, it's just creating that environment where we can continually bounce ideas off each other. And we'll share books. Like, so, obviously we'll, if somebody starts reading a book and they finish it, we'll pass it around and everybody will end up reading the same books. I have a bunch of stuff that I have, like whether it be on my Dropbox or USB drives that I'll share with my interns and my staff, training materials that I've gathered over the years. And I'm like, hey, if you got stuff that I'm like, hold on, where'd you get that? We'll share stuff back and forth. Whether it be programs or books or presentations and whatnot. And then obviously we try to hit the conferences. We know that we have our Connecticut State Conference that's coming next week, so we'll go to that. And then, we try to get to the coaches conference at least once, the NSCA convention every year as well. So, it's hard sometimes with the schedule to be able to get out to places. So the more stuff that we can do as a staff, on a weekly basis, being able to sit down and bounce ideas off each other, the better.
I like that. Okay. And so you kind of touched on, intelligence is obviously something you want to be surrounded by, right? But what other kind of qualities are you looking for when kind of hiring for some of these positions?
Basically, someone that is coachable and like humble and is understanding that there is no right way to sort of do this. There's different methods and different ways to do this, but being open to learning, not so much being stuck in their ways and like just a person that is hardworking and is going to do things without being told to be done. So like, for example, like when one thing I always notice, like walking through a room, if you see a wrapper on the floor, does that intern, does that coach pick it up and throw it away? Or does he wait for the next man to pick that up? You know, so it's like, it's those things. Like, does he push in his chair after he gets up from his desk? Does he take his hat off when he enters a room? Like, just little things like that. So how you carry yourself is huge. I'm big on presentation. So like, especially like when coaches are on the floor, I tell my interns all the time, like, I don't want to see you with your arms crossed or your hands in your pockets. Like, that's just showing that you're disinterested and you don't want to be here. So be engaged and be energetic and be excited about coaching. Because our athletes feed off our coaches' excitement. Nobody's saying you got to be, the center of attention. But if you're excited about training every day, then your kid's going to be excited about being there with you.
No, I think a lot of that stuff is just little things that people don't think about, right? Especially young interns coming into a room. Like, just... it's right over their head. Like, nobody's thinking about, like, where their hands are or, like, little things. It's like straightening weights on a weight tree, It's just little things that really show that you care. So
yes,
I like
Exactly,
that.
exactly.
Okay.
So, like stock in the fridge. If
Yeah.
they see something low in the fridge in terms of our RTDs and
Yeah.
whatnot, our shakes and whatnot,
Yeah.
then, making making sure the fridge is always full.
Yeah.
Making sure the weights, like you said, the weights are straight in the racks and whatnot.
Yeah.
If the racks need wiped down, make sure
Yeah.
you wipe down the racks.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna be a person that's gonna like. I've never been a person that's gonna be, one of those guys that's like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do it. Like, I want you to be able to be a self-starter and do that stuff on your own without me having to coach you through it. So if I have to get to that point, then we're probably not good working with each other.
Yeah. You can just pack up right now. No, I get that. And I mean, again, it's kids are always asking, or young coaches are always asking, like, hey, how can I be a better coach? How can I get to the next level? All right, do the simple things. Master where you are. So. I like that. Okay.
As everybody's always trying to find the fast track.
Right.
There's no fast track. You have to do a great job at where you're at.
Yeah.
And Coach McKeever said, make the big time where you're at.
Yeah.
So like, you want that big time job. The big time job is the job you got right now.
Yeah.
And if you do the best job at the job you got now, then boom, somebody will take notice and you're on the next job. So.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. And then diving a little bit more into, learning and some continuing education. We talked about that, right? But what are some resources that have had a big impact on you, whether it's an experience or a conversation, a book, a podcast, something like that?
Yeah, basically, like, one of the things that, I always, my mother always told me is, like, do unto others as you want done unto you. So that's basically how I live my life, man. Honestly, it applies to everything in life. From obviously coaching to, if I was working a regular 9-to-5, same thing, like just how you treat people, man, and your great relationships with people. People, they won't remember. People always remember how you made them feel, like not things you did. They're not gonna remember the car you drove or the house you was at or how much weight you lifted at that one time you tested maxed out. They're gonna remember how you made them feel. The person, you want to make sure that people when they leave you or when they're working with you, you make them feel good about themselves. So do unto others as you want done unto you. My mother always said it, and it's one of those things that I live by on a daily basis. So. Yeah.
Okay. No, I really like that. It's important. Is there a thought or experience from your past that you've kind of held on to that's made a big difference in your life now?
Basically, like, the biggest thing is honestly, like, just, I had my grandmother was kind of like, she raised me, and she was always, a person that, instilled hard work in me. And she's like, if you work hard, and it's one of those things that hard work is always rewarded. So like, and it goes back to what we were saying, just make the big time where you're at. But like, hard work is always rewarded. So like, I don't ever want somebody to outwork me. I'm always trying to like, I want to be the hardest working guy in the room, because I be the most. You can't. Obviously, everybody has different talent levels. Yeah. And as an athlete, I knew that as well. Like, yes, I was probably a talented athlete, but I knew that I could outwork people. So it's like, how are you going to work? What is your work ethic like? And like, if you have you value hard work, then obviously it's gonna take you longer than talent will in the long term. So. Yeah.
No, I think it's another important thing to key in on is, you said you want to be the hardest working person in the room. And I agree with you. I think a lot of people might think of or misinterpret that as being hard work as being present, right? So it goes back to what we said earlier. Like, you don't have to be in the office 24/7, but you have to be productive when you're there.
Quality. Yeah. Quality, man. Quality over quantity, man.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting.
Definitely.
Okay. What is the best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice I've ever been given is basically in terms of like presentation is everything. So like I'm putting on the wall here in Connecticut, we're getting the wall graphics, prepare, present, perform. So I have 3 Ps. And basically that goes, you can use that for anything in life. You have to be able to prepare and have great preparation in anything that you do, whether it be in the weight room, whether it be in the workforce. You have to be able to have great preparation. Like, if you're not prepared, you can't do anything. And then obviously you have to have great presentation. And then obviously your performance is the finishing product of everything. So, and when I talk about presentation, I'm talking about how you carry yourself. It goes back to your interns. They have their hands in their pockets or their arms folded. They make eye contact. Are they presentable when they present themselves? Like, I tell guys all the time, coach, I'm going on a job interview. Coach told me not to wear a suit. No, wear a suit. Because at the end of the day, you want to overdress. Like, the last thing I want is a guy to come in and he's on an interview and he doesn't have a suit. It's like, all right, does this guy really care about presentation? So I'm big on presentation, and then obviously your performance it shows. If you have everything, if you have your preparation in order, you have good presentation, your performance will be great.
I like that. Okay, so in contrast to that, right, what's the worst advice you've ever been given?
The worst advice I've ever been given, honestly, like money advice, man. Like buy. The first thing you need to do is get a credit card.
Yeah.
When you get to college, like. But getting a credit card when I first got the card, no reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, the money advice, man, that I've gotten over the years has been bad. So,
yeah.
But the thing is, nobody in my family ever had any money as well. So it's like not significant. So like, I never had like someone to like really like bounce ideas off money wise. So, because everybody lives check to check. They live check to check in my family. So, money wise and being able to save, because obviously as a strength coach, I mean. We're getting towards the point where we might have some strength coaches that will retire as strength coaches, which is great.
Yeah.
But like I first started out in this thing 10, 12 years ago, it wasn't like that. So strength coaches, there was always like, it's a young man's game, and you got to be able to coach as much as you can and save as much as you can, and then once you hit 40, it's pretty much downhill from there. But not just being able to make sure that like you set aside some savings, obviously for retirement, because your job, especially at this level, is based off wins and losses. So like you can be here today, gone tomorrow, and it's like there are those that have been fired and those that are about to be fired. And it's like that's pretty much the way this animal is at the Division I level, especially when you're working FBS football. So it makes you set yourself up that you have savings and you have a contingency plan.
No, I like that. Always preparing, right? It goes back to the 3 Ps. Always prepare.
Yes, always prepare, man.
Yeah,
prepare,
I like that.
Present, perform, man.
There it is. Okay. So what are some projects that you're kind of currently working on, and how can people kind of reach out to you and follow your journey?
So right now, basically, like the biggest project I got working on is just here in the house. We're players doing our floor over right now. We're getting a new, our flooring's getting reinstalled this week, and getting new wall graphics in the room and whatnot. So basically getting our room redone, and that's been my biggest project that I've gotten going on since I've gotten here. And then I don't really have anything personal going on, but feel free if you got coaches want to reach out. I'm always available in terms of people want to come by and do a site visit, people want to come by and observe, or people want to come and intern. I always want to help people out, because I always tell my interns, like, hey, would you hire me, man? Like, when they leave, because at the end of the day, you're always, like Coach Saad told me, it's like, you got to treat people the way you want to be treated, because you never know. We could be fired, and we could be working for one of our interns next year. So, the people you meet on the way up are the same people you meet on the way down. So make sure you treat them with respect and, stay humble in this industry. But, if coaches want to reach out, feel free to shoot me an email. Follow me on social media, my Instagram, Coach _M King. Feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always open to talk shop like we're doing here and whatnot. And if they want to come watch a workout session, we're always open to have people come by. So awesome. I want to be able to help coaches, grow in this profession. It's been great for me, and I'm thankful for it. And I'm thankful for the athletes that I've been able to work with, and the coaches that I've been able to coach with as well along the way, from my sport coaches to all the strength coaches that I've worked with at every spot I've been at. I've taken something from everybody, and it's one of those things that definitely feel blessed to be in the situation that I'm in right now, and I got to continuously on a continued pursuit of excellence, man.
Okay. No, I love it. Awesome, Coach. I thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome. Just really getting in, talking shop and just seeing how you do things and your approach. And I love your approach. And more coaches need to have open doors like that. Open mentality, open doors. So to hear you say that kind of stuff it's reassuring. And thanks again for your time. And hopefully we can connect again soon in the future.
No doubt, man. The last thing I want to leave with is, everybody does pretty much the same thing. We all just, have different variations to how we do it. So when coaches are like, oh, I don't want to have anybody see my program, or I don't want to see anybody see it, like, we're all doing the same thing. And at the end of the day, it's just about how you implement it. I may implement it a different way than you implement it. So, when people are shy or not don't want to share things, that's what I always say is, I'm not doing nothing that hasn't been done before by previous strength coaches. I'm taking everything that I learned from previous strength coaches and putting my own spin on it. That's all I do.
No, that's really important. And yeah, like you said, there's only so many barbell exercises, right? So
Yep.
I love it. Awesome. Well, Coach, thanks again. I appreciate you, and I look forward to connecting again soon.
All right, sounds good. I appreciate you. Thank you.